Hi ladies and gentlemen, the day that I'm recording this is January 17th, 2017, and I'm out here with a few people, and we got tired of talking politics and etc., and so they wanted to watch the Donald Trump and David Koresh series. And then a big discussion ensued, and we went on for hours, and after I got done, they asked me, they said, well, have you ever talked about this particular aspect of it before? And I said, well, yes. I did a video about a year or two ago called To Be or Ruin. And they said, well, let's see that. So I put that up, and they all said, well, why didn't you include that in your series? And I said, well, I just felt like I had thrown so much information. But what I've done here is I've clipped it, taken the section out that they're most interested in, and included in this video, and it's coming up. Maybe I should have covered this in that series, because I was trying to show in that the powers that be, the Luciferians, the New World Order, those people hate human beings, mankind, because of what we really are. And they've done everything in their power to try to destroy our self-confidence, our understandings of our history and our origins, and all of that. So this really was what I'm going to include here. Some of it is as a repeat of what I said in Donald Trump and David Koresh, but there are one or two new things, and I think you'll be interested in seeing that. So just for that information, and for my buddies over here, I think I'll go ahead and put this up. It won't be up until after the 20th, maybe the 21st when you see this, but we are recording it on January 17th. Okay, I hope you find this interesting. What I really want to get into today is, like I said before, that there's this issue that the Hebrew stories in the Bible are simply nothing more than a repeat or a plagiarism of Sumerian ideas, etc. And I want you to know that that's not true. I'm not saying that there aren't similarities, because obviously these events happened and different cultures recorded them in different ways. What I'd like to do is this. I'm going to concentrate on the Hebrew language. One of the things that I saw, and I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm saying that the people that involve themselves in this do not understand really the magnitude of the truths that they're dealing with. And so they come to assumptions way too easy. One of these is what's considered the unutterable name of God, the Yod, He, Vav, He, that most of us would pronounce Jehovah. Now, to the Jews, it's not right to pronounce this name, but in fact, in the Old Testament, you're supposed to pronounce that name and glorify it, but there are reasons why the Jews decided not to do that. And I'm not saying the Israelites, I'm saying the Jews. I'm not even sure they were Judahites that decided on this, but the Jews decided on it. At any rate, that name, by some people that have written into my YouTube site here, and who have incredible amounts of videos and books and things on the internet, will go through a number of machinations to try to say that it's an evil thing. And they're not incorrect in saying that the H, the He, Vav, He, the H, V, H, as we would know it in English, could mean ruin or calamity, of course. But let me give you an example in English as to why you can't make that assumption simply based on the name by itself. And of course I left the Yod out of that. And I'm going to show you all this on a piece of paper here in a minute, but I just want to talk about it first. Let's talk about the word read. What am I talking about? Well, you have two ways to figure it out. One is the context in the sentence, okay? And the second is the types of vowels that are used. Now, that's an interesting concept. What is a vowel? Well, first of all, we've got to know what a consonant is. A consonant is a hard sound, usually in the English language. It's consonant. K's, B's, C's, which can also be like C in constant can also be that way, or it can be like cistern, C-I-S-T-E-R-N. The point is that the consonants are always basically constant. There's really not much meaning particularly in them. What gives the word its meaning, like in read, is what are the vowels. So if I say I'm going to read a book, from the context you can tell I'm talking about the word R-E-A-D. Notice the vowels in there, the E and the A. But what if I said I'm going to go pick some reeds out of the water? Well, then I would be talking about R-E-E-D, and an instance of that would be two vowels different than the reed we just talked about. The E and the reed that we pick out of the water, the E and the A out of the reed that we're talking about reading a book. Do you see the difference? Well, those are the mistakes people make when they look these words up in Hebrew and come to really incorrect assumptions, or they take advantage of the ignorance of those who don't know any better. But that's my nature. I usually end up giving people the benefit of the doubt. So what we're going to talk about today are the vowels in the Hebrew. Okay? A vowel is what? Well, let's break the word down. In the Hebrew language, El means God. Okay? So what is a vowel? It's a vow of God, or God's vow. And that has all kinds of meanings in the way that we interpret the Hebrew language. I talked about paradise in one of my videos, at least I think I did. Maybe I didn't. But it's the levels of meaning of the Hebrew language, and a lot of it has to do with the vowels that are used. You can substitute different vowels into the Hebrew to get a different meaning, and it's perfectly legitimate to do that if you know what you're doing. I won't go into a whole lot of detail, but the original Tanakh, the Bible, the original Torah, actually, the first 5 books of the Bible, was written in a non-stop sentence using just the consonants of the Hebrew language with no vowels. No breaks, no divisions. A single run-on word. Seriously. It was by basically agreement that it was divided up the way it is. But each of those can be changed as far as their meaning by the type of vowels you insert or where you break the words up. And literally, there are thousands of translations of the Bible, all of them correct when you do that method. And I'm not going to go into that much here. But people that say that it's similar to the Sumerian language are totally incorrect, or that the stories that came down were strictly Sumerian with no other meaning in them. No, that's not true. So let's talk a little bit about these vowels in the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh that you know as Jehovah, and why, depending upon the vowels you put in there, it means a different word. Now, there are different attributes of God. And I will give the critics this information here. I will agree with them at this point. You know, there's a scripture and it says that God created everything, right? Well, that would mean the good and the bad, or what we consider to be good and the bad. So if that's the case, then maybe you can find something that you would consider bad in God's name, if you tried hard enough. And that's what these people have done. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I am saying that the attributes of God have to be taken into consideration. Okay? So let's start off, and I'm going to show you a couple things in the Hebrew here about the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh. We're going to drop the Yod at this point because I want to show you the root word that they use to come up with all these deleterious meanings. Okay, so what I've done here is I've taken the name Jehovah and I've dropped the Yod. The Yod is the smallest letter of the Hebrew alphabet. It means hand. But this is the part of the word that's at issue anyway with these people. This is Hey, Vav, or Wow, Hey. And what I want to point out here is that depending upon what vowels you use, just like I did with the read and the read, it can mean different things. For instance, if we want it to mean to breathe, it's halvaha, halvaha. If we want it to mean to be, it's ha-vo-ha. Ha-vo-ha. If we want it to do the one that we were talking about with all these people that demand that it be translated as ruin or calamity, it would be ha-va-ha. You hear the difference? Ha-va-ha. So, ha-va-ha, to breathe, ha-vo-ha, to be, and ha-va-ha, ruin or calamity. Now I've gone ahead here and inserted the yod. It's the very small consonant there on the far right. This is the word in Hebrew that you would know as Jehovah, or Yahweh is another way that it's pronounced. And I'm not going to sit here and go over all the different possible pronunciations and why there are so many, which in fact there are, because God is infinite. But I'm going to show you some things about this name that are pretty fascinating. So I'm going to get in the frame here and write something out for you. Those of you who are familiar with genetics, I want to show you something. Okay? I hope you can still hear me. I hope I'm not blocking this too much. What are the male chromosomes? Y and X, correct? What are the female chromosomes? X and X. Isn't that correct? Isn't that what you've been told in school? At least that's how they're described. Okay? That's amazing, because you actually see that in this name, if you know how to look for it. For instance, here's the Y and the X right here. Now, it's joined by the nature of the way that it's put together. But the woman is there also, right here. The X combined with the X. Interestingly, with a vav. Now, in the Hebrew language, the yod symbolizes a male, the hey symbolizes a female. Are you beginning to see some interesting things about this name? In the first chapter of Genesis, it says that God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. Okay? And Adam was made in the image of God. Okay? Then a rib was taken out of his side, and a woman was made and brought to him. If you know your genetics, a man has a Y chromosome and an X chromosome. In other words, he's the determiner of sex in his offspring. A woman doesn't carry a Y chromosome. So the story of Adam being formed and then a deep sleep coming upon him and a rib being taken from him, however you want to understand that rib, it can be, a number of things. I won't get into that here. But the point is that God used X chromosomes in this Adam to make a woman. There's no way that a woman could be used to make a man. Why? She has no Y chromosomes. Now, I understand there are things with mitochondria and those types of things. Man can create woman. Woman can't create man. Or I should say, man can determine the sex and make a man or a woman. But a woman can only make women if you just take their chromosomes from them. Just something simple. I wanted to show you that these ancients knew a lot about what they were talking about. And there's a lot more in this name which I won't go into right now because it would take much too much time. But it is indeed the reason why mankind is what we are, is that name right there. And there's a reason why it's mentioned in the second chapter of Genesis and not the first. But I'm not going to go into all of that now. I just wanted to show you in very simple terms how